For a decade, Osama bin Laden remained the world's most wanted man. From the ashes of the Twin Towers in 2001 to his final hours in 2011, his story was one of evasion, betrayal, and an eventual reckoning that gripped the globe. But how did he evade capture for so long? And how did the United States finally find him in one of the most fortified compounds in Pakistan? The morning of September 11, 2001, changed the world forever. Nearly 3,000 lives were lost as the Twin Towers fell, the Pentagon was struck, and Flight 93 crashed into a Pennsylvania field. Within hours, America began its search for justice. Narrator. Just days after the attacks, CIA Director George Tenet confirmed what many suspected. Osama bin Laden and his terror network, al-Qaeda, were responsible. This was not bin Laden's first strike against the U.S. He had orchestrated the 1998 bombings of U.S. embassies in Africa, and his network had declared a holy war against America. But now, bin Laden became the singular focus of the U.S. government. Narrator. In the immediate aftermath, U.S. intelligence raced against the clock to locate bin Laden. Initial reports placed him in Afghanistan under the protection of the Taliban. By October 7, 2001, the U.S. launched Operation Enduring Freedom, a military campaign aimed at dismantling al-Qaeda and removing the Taliban from power. The operation was swift and overwhelming. The Taliban were quickly ousted from Kabul, but the primary target, bin Laden, remained elusive. As U.S. forces combed through caves and hideouts, bin Laden and his closest allies vanished into the rugged terrain of Tora Bora, a region infamous for its labyrinthine caves and treacherous mountains. What followed was the beginning of a decade-long manhunt, one that would test the limits of American intelligence and military strategy. Despite the $25 million bounty on his head, bin Laden would remain a step ahead of his pursuers, for now. In December 2001, Tora Bora became the stage for one of the most intense manhunts in history. Nestled in the White Mountains of eastern Afghanistan, this region is a natural fortress with endless caves and tunnels, perfect for hiding. For weeks, U.S. forces bombarded the area with thousands of ton explosives, including the BLU-82 Daisy Cutter, a 15,000-pound bomb capable of devastating everything within a radius of hundreds of yards. While the U.S. unleashed an aerial assault, local Afghan militias, supported by American Special Forces, were tasked with closing in on the caves. However, cracks in the plan began to emerge. Reliance on Afghan fighters, many of whom had questionable loyalties, proved to be a critical error. As U.S. forces prepared for a decisive strike, bin Laden's network proved resourceful. Using their intimate knowledge of the terrain, they orchestrated a daring escape. Intelligence suggests bin Laden was mere miles ahead of his pursuers, yet they were unable to close the gap. Believing his capture was imminent, bin Laden reportedly wrote a farewell letter to his followers. But fortune was on his side. On December 16, 2001, under the cover of darkness, he and a small group of loyalists slipped across the border into Pakistan. When American forces finally secured Tora Bora, they found evidence of bin Laden's presence, but the man himself was gone. Questions immediately arose. Why hadn't more U.S. troops been deployed to block his escape routes? And why was there such heavy reliance on local militias? From 2002 to 2010, bin Laden became a ghost. His life during these years was shrouded in mystery, with only fragments of intelligence hinting at his movements. He relied on an intricate network of couriers, most notably Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, to stay in contact with al-Qaeda operatives. But bin Laden himself remained invisible, avoiding all forms of electronic communication to evade detection. At Guantanamo Bay, interrogations of al-Qaeda members revealed tantalizing clues about bin Laden's network. Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti's name surfaced repeatedly as a trusted courier. Still, tracking him down proved challenging. The CIA had to piece together bits of information over several years to identify him and locate his operations. By 2009, the CIA began narrowing down al-Kuwaiti's movements. they discovered that he was operating in northern Pakistan, often traveling between major cities and rural areas. Yet, bin Laden's exact location remained unknown. It wasn't until mid-2010 that a breakthrough occurred. Through surveillance and intercepted communications, the CIA identified a suspicious compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. It was no ordinary home. The three-story structure was surrounded by 18-foot-high walls, topped with barbed wire. Unlike other homes in the area, it had no telephone or internet connections. Most tellingly, the occupants burned their trash instead of putting it out for collection. By the fall of 2010, the CIA began monitoring the compound around the clock. They observed a man, nicknamed the Pacer, who rarely left the building but matched bin Laden's physical description. Months of surveillance and analysis led intelligence officials to conclude with 60 to 80% certainty that the compound was bin Laden's hideout. By May 2011, the decision had been made. The risks were enormous. A failed operation could embarrass the US on the global stage, and Pakistan's reaction to a unilateral strike on their soil was unpredictable. But President Obama approved the mission, setting the stage for what would become one of the most daring military operations in modern history. On the night of May 1, 2011, two Black Hawk helicopters carrying SEAL Team 6 departed from Afghanistan, flying under the radar to avoid detection. Their destination, the mysterious compound in Abbottabad. As the first helicopter approached the compound, disaster nearly struck. The aircraft encountered a downdraft, forcing it to make a hard landing inside the compound's walls. Miraculously, the SEALs on board were unharmed and continued with their mission. Over the next 40 minutes, the SEALs methodically cleared the compound. They encountered fierce resistance from bin Laden's couriers and guards, but the highly trained team quickly neutralized the threats. Finally, they reached the third floor, where bin Laden was believed to be hiding. In a brief but intense encounter, bin Laden was shot and killed. The team secured his body, along with a trove of valuable intelligence, including hard drives and documents detailing al-Qaeda's operations. With the mission complete, the SEALs evacuated the compound. To ensure no evidence remained, they destroyed the damaged helicopter before leaving. Hours later, President Obama addressed the world, announcing that the leader of al-Qaeda had been brought to justice. The raid was a success, but it also raised questions. How had bin Laden managed to hide in plain sight for so long? Did elements within Pakistan's government know of his presence? And what would the aftermath mean for US-Pakistan relations? The killing of Osama bin Laden was a defining moment in the fight against terrorism, but it was also a reminder of the complexities of global politics and the sacrifices made by countless individuals in the pursuit of justice. The death of Osama bin Laden marked the end of an era, but the story doesn't end there. The aftermath of his killing sparked debates about the ethical and strategic implications of the raid. Did it really weaken al-Qaeda, or did it create new challenges for global security? For the US, the raid brought a sense of closure to 9/11 victims and their families. Yet, it also highlighted the deep complexities of America's war on terror. Over 2 decades, this effort cost trillions of dollars and claimed thousands of lives. Some hailed the operation as a triumph of intelligence and military precision. Others questioned whether the resources and sacrifices were justified, given the resurgence of extremist groups in the years that followed. Bin Laden's death was symbolic, but it didn't mark the end of terrorism. Groups like ISIS rose to fill the vacuum, and global security challenges evolved in unforeseen ways. Perhaps the greatest legacy of the hunt for bin Laden lies in its lessons. It showed the power of perseverance and innovation in the face of adversity, but it also underscored the limitations of military force in addressing the root causes of extremism. The story of Osama bin Laden is not just one of terror and violence. It is a reminder of the resilience of those who pursue justice and the enduring impact of history on our world today. What do you think? Was the decade-long pursuit worth it? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more gripping stories from history. Thanks for watching.